Today's video, we're going to be checking out the Hot Toys Back to the Future 2. This is the Sideshow exclusive Marty McFly. The figure stands at 11 inches tall and depicts Marty's continued adventures into time traveling. This time around, he travels into the future in Back to the Future 2, which was released to theaters November 24th, 1989. For displaying options, Marty McFly comes with an excessively large baseball diamond-shaped display base. We've seen these bases before. I find them incredibly large. Here it depicts the water scene in which Marty's trying to escape across, and of course hoverboards don't work across water unless you got the power. Poor Marty is kind of stuck in the middle of the water area. Now the water itself is, I don't want to say disappointing. Okay, I'll say disappointing. The water is disappointing. It kind of looks like a blurry, zoomed up shot of the water. I don't really feel like a whole lot of effort was really put into it, as it does look like, it just looks like it's closer than what it should be. It should be further back, and it certainly should be a lot clearer than what it is. It looks like somebody took a very small image and in low resolution tried their best to make it larger and ultimately got this. By the way, the base does have, well, the cardboard end of it can be removed, but there would be absolutely nothing underneath it other than just a few holes and stuff like that. So on the front, though, you've got the Back to the Future 2 placard along with Marty McFly at the top. And you've got what I can only describe as an excessively large adjustable neck. I don't feel like the neck should have been this tall. I mean, granted, you can get some angled shots where Marty is kind of skimming across, you know, the scene sort of thing. But I find like the adjustable neck, as adjustable as it may be, I find it's too long. It should have probably been about 3/4 the length, if anything, so it would have had Marty a little bit closer to the surface. It would involve a little bit of bending and manipulation to get the actual neck to get a little bit closer to the base here. I wish, if anything, the folks over at Hot Toys could have also given us just a small oval-shaped display stand or something that we got with the Back to the Future 1 Marty. And seeing as we already mentioned Back to the Future 1 Marty display stand, why don't we actually bring in the Marty McFly from Back to the Future 1? Here's my Back to the Future 1 Marty McFly, and this is exactly what I'm talking about the oval-shaped display base. I don't know why they could have just simply included one of these bases as well. Granted, it's nice to have Marty be able to be displayed in a dramatic pose, of course hovering with his hoverboard. But I'm always the type that I try to get as much minimal space as possible when it comes to displaying these. I don't want to get overly crazy because ultimately it just means less figures that I can display, in my detolfs. I would have preferred an oval-shaped display base, and if they still wanted to include the baseball diamond display base, they could have done that as well. Here we have, by the way, Marty McFly. This is how I've currently got him on display in my detolf. I tried to get it at the beginning of the movie where he's going to go meet up with Doc. And he's got the camcorder in his backpack, and he's holding his skateboard. Probably ultimately will change that, maybe something closer to how he appears in the movie poster. But a good way to showcase both figures that we've gotten from Hot Toys. At first glance, it may appear that Back to the Future 2 Marty is a little bit taller than his Back to the Future 1 self, but I think it's just because of the way of the sculpting of the hair, because I think the eyes generally line up. When I first got the Back to the Future 2 Marty, I thought he had a more natural skin tone. Now that I look at it versus the Back to the Future 1 Marty, I feel like Back to the Future 1 Marty's facial tone, the skin tone, I think is a little bit closer to how it appears in the movie. Maybe it's a little too pale on the Back to the Future 2 version of Marty, but it's really hard to say. Back to the Future 2 Marty also is slightly distinct in the fact that his eyes are slightly off to the side. This is not something I'm a big fan of myself. I kind of wish that the eyes were facing forward. Ultimately, sometimes it means that the face sculpts look a little on the dead side, but I think I would have preferred that a little bit more than having Marty's eyes always looking off to the right if you're looking at it on screen. Still, though, I mean, it's a nice comparison to have both figures on display because they are drastically different, both in their outfits and in their face sculpts. Yes, whereas the Marty McFly from the first movie sported jeans, a jean jacket, of course the white shirt, red t-shirt underneath, and his life preserver vest. Marty here on the left from Back to the Future 2 still carries over the same type of jeans, although it's a little bit lighter, it seems, on this figure. Still sports the red t-shirt, but now he has the self-drying jacket and the self-lacing shoes. The jacket has some really cool details to it where texture-wise you can see how it's red, but it almost as if it's these little red blips on top of a very dark gray, almost rubber. The interior is almost like an actual fabric, but the exterior feels closer to like a faux rubber. It's got the little adjustments on the side. You can see where the sleeves would have self-sized for Marty and also would have dried as well. And the one thing I do have to say, though, about the jacket is looking at the movie again, the jacket, all the areas that are really dark black or dark gray seemed lighter gray in the movie. And I went back a couple of times and looked at it. It does seem like he has more gray or darker gray, not closer to black as what we're getting here. So I do feel like the jacket sleeves at least, or really all the areas that have this color, really should have actually been lighter on the figure. Okay, so comparisons aside, let's go back to Marty's head sculpt. I'm not saying anything is necessarily wrong with the head sculpt, other than the fact that the eyes are slightly lingering off to the side. I don't really know why they ultimately went with that. I feel like Hot Toys are trying to change out, do a little bit different things with certain figures. And this is one of those instances where the eyes are kind of like looking off to the side. They also did this too with the Peter Parker from the Spider-Man Homecoming, in which the eyes were right off to the side. They weren't quite facing forward. Still, though, it's a really great head sculpt. The hair is done nicely as well. The hair is also darker than the original Marty, which has a more lighter brown. Really nice hair sculpt all around. You can see all like the individual strands of hair that they've sculpted on the back here. If you don't prefer this particular hair sculpt on Marty, he also does have an interchangeable hair piece, which is this one right here. The hair clearly is a little bit more shaped to fit the supplied hat that also is included. The hat, if you are wondering, by the way, does not fit over top of his existing hair. It's just too full. So what you will need to do is take the head off, or the hair off, and it's attached just via some magnets on the top. There's a magnet on the inside there as well. Attach it over top of his head. And it looks a little ridiculous, I have to admit, as is, until you get the hat going over top of it. Now, I think in the unboxing, I tried putting the hat the opposite way as well, which doesn't quite work, but it does fit the hat quite well. You can slightly even have it on an angle, too, if you so wish. The hat, much like in the movie, is made up of kind of multi-colors. It's a silver hat, but you can see it kind of reflects the light and gives you different shades of color. Some oranges, some reds, some pinks, I should say, and some blues. Those who are sticklers of the movie accuracies for displaying these figures may then therefore not probably display Marty McFly with his hoverboard, because at the time of the movie he isn't wearing his cap by this point. Cue segue ourselves into the included hoverboard. As you can see, they have left off some product placements, but otherwise it's a pretty good representation of the hoverboard, even right down to the metal discs that are underneath. The hoverboard actually does attach to Marty's feet via magnets. One foot can slide into the little looplet here, and then the other foot can hang on the front here. Now it is magnetized. There's magnets keeping everything together, so his feet aren't going to fall off the hoverboard. If you, however, do want to have the feet sideways, like I did at the beginning of this review, pretending as if Marty is paddling and kicking his way to freedom, the magnet has to be just right on the foot. If you have the foot ever so slightly off to the side, it basically has to be planted like right there for it to get a good solid grip. And then you can have Marty's feet kicking off to the side if you want to display it like that. Doing a whole bunch of segues here. Segueing ourselves to Marty's self-lacing boots. They actually look pretty good. Slightly clear undersole, and otherwise a gray and off blue color. And then you've got the lace on the top. Once again, there's really no symbols or anything that's been added to the boot. They kind of left it off pretty bare. So it doesn't have as much the accuracy as to it does in the movie, but it still gets the point across. Okay, so let's talk Marty's other accessories now. In the category of didn't need to include it, but it's pretty cool that they actually did, Hot Toys includes the actual shoe case, if I don't drop it, the shoe case in which the boots, the self-lacing boots, are actually inside. Now, unfortunately, unless you swap out, say, Back to the Future 2's Marty's with Back to the Future 1 Marty's sneakers, that's about the only way that you could, I suppose you could theoretically put the boots in there, but then Marty doesn't have an extra pair of footwear. This would have been an opportunity that if they had actually included this, they should have also included his sneakers. So you could have taken the boots off completely and just put them actually inside the case here. Curious by the idea of it, I left Marty's feet somewhat pegged, and I've got actually just the boots on their own here. The boots, as you can see, this is how it pegs itself into the socket of Marty's feet. And I just want to test the theory, see if I can actually get the boots inside. This is completely unplanned. I'm going to see if I can actually get the boots completely... I guess they could. Just a little bit of finagling would be required. See if I can actually get these boots in. Not that you would be doing what I'm doing. There we go. Let's see if I can actually close it. And they do successfully close. This would be perfect, mind you, if you had the sneakers and not get the boots stuck now in the process. But if you had the sneakers, this would be perfect to display Marty with the boots inside the case here. Also included is the bane of Marty's existence, and basically the whole thing that sets the wheels in motion for Back to the Future 2. He gets the Gray's Sports Almanac from 1950 to 2000. What's neat is he actually comes with a bag that blasts from the past, which can hold the almanac. It's hard to kind of get it in there, but it does fit inside the bag. I would likely even display Marty McFly with the Sports Almanac in one hand and then maybe the hoverboard on the other. I know, not scene specific, but those are two really cool accessories. I couldn't pass up the chance to have them displayed with both. By the way, if you are wondering what's inside the almanac, the pages are very bare minimum. In fact, it looks like there's only about 5 pages, maybe 4 pages, and inside, wittingly, they put the cast and crew responsible for making the Marty McFly figure. Again, it's very limited. I feel like they could have made it a little bit thicker, but really, what are you expecting for a magazine to fit scale with a 6-scale figure? He also gets himself a really cool bottle for Pepsi. I mean, at one point, they had released the self-lacing boots as a charitable, you could pick them up and I think money went to charity. I think Pepsi should have also done, for a limited time, this shaped bottle. It's really cool looking. It's got a slight brown tint to it for an otherwise clear translucent bottle, so it does give you the kind of the sense that it's filled with Pepsi. It doesn't open or anything like that, and it's got the Pepsi logo on the front, but I really think Pepsi should do this at some point as a limited edition item. Maybe not limited edition, but in the sense of exclusive editions. The Marty McFly, the Sideshow exclusive, comes with the arcade gun. Seen very briefly at the beginning of the movie where the kids, well, not at the beginning of the movie, but when they're in the diner and the kids are trying to figure out how this arcade works, Marty proceeds to show them, and I think they make fun of the fact that it's like a kid's toy, but the arcade gun, for the very little that this becomes an exclusive, there's really not a lot of other exclusives other than a few interchangeable hands. But I felt the need that I wanted to pick it up because I never know if I maybe want to display Marty McFly with the actual arcade gun. The arcade gun doesn't give you a full length of cord. It only instead gives you very short cord, and it also gives you the chain on the end there. Nothing on the actual gun can be opened, but it's got some really nice paint on it, or lack thereof, as it looks like the paint's kind of been worn off the barrel and the actual handle portion. One of the other exclusive, of course, is he comes with a couple of different extra hands. The hands are really only suited for holding the arcade gun. And you can see how it fits inside the hand, and the trigger finger is right on the trigger there. In the category of almost forgotten accessories, Marty also includes his wristwatch, which is like a little digital watch. I haven't yet put it onto his wrist because it's a little harder to get it in there with the sleeve of the jacket kind of going over top of it. But the wristwatch, if the camera can hopefully focus, there you go, doesn't have really much in anything in the way of paint. The sculpt is actually pretty good, and it's a softer rubber. It can just fit over top of Marty's wrists. Marty also gets his copy of USA Today, which features the gang-jailed hoverboard rampage destroys courthouse. Gang later quotes it saying, "I was framed." Up at the top, you've got some extra little cool things like the Hill Valley Edition. You've got Slam Ball Playoffs Begin. All these little extra little things that you could make out if your reading was fine enough. If you have good vision, you could probably make out some of the words on here. Cholesterol, maybe cancer cure. 3 injured when mom rehydrates pizza slices. It comes in 2 pieces. And the one section just kind of folds into the other. Again, nice accompanying piece. Would you ever display Marty with it? Necessarily no, but it's always nice to include stuff like this. Rounding out the rest of the accessories, he comes with a whole ton of different interchangeable hands. Now keep in mind, some of these are exclusive, that they would come with the arcade gun, specifically this one. There's another one in here as well, I think, that comes with the arcade gun. I think it's maybe this one. But then he's got a pair of semi-relaxed hands, some flat hands, and he's got a couple of like gripping hands as well. Marty's articulation, he gets a ball joint not only in the top socket that attaches into the head, but then he also has a ball joint at the base of the neck as well. So you have the hinge there, and then you also have the hinge at the top where the head attaches. Full head rotation all the way around, and you can also rock back and forth, primarily because of the ball joint here rather than the one up at the top here. Shoulders hinge outward and not restricted at all by his jacket. In fact, his jacket has enough room to it that you can move the arms quite easily, and it doesn't seem to be a problem at all. You can rotate at the bicep, you can double bend at the elbow, and he also has a rotation in his hands. I suppose I could probably also mention with the other hands that we looked at, of course he comes with these hands too. This hand I think actually did come with the light gun. I may or may not be right by that. But he does also have those extra hands, of course. Of course, he's got hands in his sockets right now as well. Upper torso crunch. He's also got a waist swivel. Legs hinge out, forward and back. He has a top swivel cut on the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. Gets a bit of the ratchet happening there. And he also has very, very nice articulation in the feet. Feet hinge back and forth. You got a rocker there, and technically they could rotate all the way around as well. Back to the Future 2 is my favorite of the Back to the Future trilogies. I love the fact that Marty was able to travel ahead in time and get a sneak peek at some of the stuff that maybe we could expect to see in the future. Ultimately, that future is now our past, and none of really anything that we saw in the events of Back to the Future 2 really came to light, especially the very disappointing reality of the fact that hoverboards still don't exist. Sigh. From a Hot Toys standpoint, I'm really glad the fact that they would give us a Back to the Future 2 Marty. We are also getting a Back to the Future 2 Doc Brown, which is perplexing because I would have thought it would have made more sense to get a Back to the Future 1 Doc first and then do Back to the Future 2's Doc Brown. But nonetheless, we are getting a Doc Brown, and we'll certainly excited to get that guy reviewed as well for you guys. From the standpoint of this figure, I love how the figure turned out. Coloring could be a little off on things such as the jacket. The head sculpt is really nice. I love the fact that you can have the interchangeable hair pieces and sporting the cap. As much as I really like the uncapped version of Marty, I probably will ultimately display him with the cap because it makes a much more drastic change of appearance from the Back to the Future 1 Marty that we've already received. I don't like the display base. I'm just going to outright say it. I like the fact that they incorporated something that if you want to display Marty hovering over top of the water, you could accomplish that, but I really think it was a poor attempt giving us an accurate representation of what that water looked like in the movie. Instead, what we end up getting is it looked like water that was zoomed in and really out of focus. Didn't really quite look right. The base is way too big in my personal opinion. The neck is way too long for adjustments, but again, that's only just my opinion. You know, you guys may feel the opposite. At the very least, I would hope that they could have also included a Back to the Future 2 circular or oval shaped base. So if you want to just display Marty like I'm displaying him right now, I don't have to bring out an excessively large display base to do that. What I may try to do is try to find somebody that can do a custom, or at the very least, maybe I'll go online and see if I can buy another Back to the Future 1 display base, and I'll just simply have both Martys displayed on the oval shaped base instead of the wretchedly large base that we ultimately got with this figure here. From a Sideshow exclusive, of course, you get yourself the arcade gun. Will I ever display him with the gun? Maybe, maybe not, but I'm really glad that I still got the exclusive at the very least, even though I only got really a gun out of it and a couple of extra hands. For Back to the Future 2 fans, or Back to the Future fans in general, I think this is a good pickup. It does everything really, really well. There's a few little stumbling blocks, but otherwise, I'm really happy with how this figure turned out. Today, we were having a look at the Hot Toys Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future Part 2, I should say. This was the Sideshow exclusive Marty McFly, which, by the way, was product code MMS379er. If you guys haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so. Of course, more videos will be coming your way. If you also want to go back and have a look at some of my previously looked at Hot Toys reviews, there's a playlist on this channel that you can check out and watch at your viewing pleasure. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.